anything that you want to say about the process or anything?
No, so we'll just go around the room here. I'll hand the mic out, and then we'll hit the Zoom as soon as we're done in the room.
Okay. Well, first, appreciate everybody being here. Those of you on the phone, on Zoom, I'm excited about this announcement. And I first want to thank our presidents and chancellors in the 3 conferences, my colleagues in the ACC and the Big Ten, and of course my peers in the Pac-12. Really excited about what this will do. You know, we all like to compete, but through collaboration, we believe that we can positively influence the future evolution of college athletics. We can provide additional support and experiences for our student athletes, and this will create an increased excitement for our alumni and fans from coast to coast. As part of this alliance, we're committed to leading the nation in our support of student athletes, academically, athletically, health and wellness, safety, all the areas that impact our student athletes. We want to lead the nation in those areas. Our student athletes will be our primary focus as we move forward with this alignment. And I'm excited about how it fits what we do at the University of Colorado. The last thing that I'll say is there's a lot going on in our industry. I think everybody knows that. And I think this alliance allows us to collaborate on these issues and bring stability to college athletics and the collegiate model. So we're excited about it. It's going to be interesting as we move forward. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
All right, so we'll take questions in the room first, and then you guys on the Zoom, if you could get in the queue for Troy to call on you in a few minutes, we'll be good to go.
George Kliavkoff was on campus yesterday. What were some of the key points in the conversations you had with him regarding the alliance?
Well, we had our last discussion last night with all the athletic directors to talk about what we were to talk about today, and I think the key thing for us is the instability of collegiate athletics today is something that is really important for us and what we wanted to address in this alignment. There's a lot going on, from NCAA governance structure to the name, image, and likeness, the Alston case, all these different things that are going in intercollegiate athletics. And we felt really strongly about bringing some stability to protecting the collegiate model and working together on the key issues that are in our industry today.
Rick, just looking at social media, there's a lot of kind of skepticism on the fact that there is no contract or anything like that. It's sort of a handshake agreement, and kind of a lot of comments on how it seems somewhat of a joke in some ways, that it's kind of a handshake.
Well, let me say this. It's not a joke. It's serious. It's important. And I think the commissioners really laid that out really well on their thought process. We don't need a contract if you trust the people that you're working with, and we certainly do. When you have all 41 ADs, all 41 presidents, all 41, of all 3 of the conference commissioners, I think, that word is important. We're going to work together with both of those conferences. We think it's important for us to come together and collaborate to improve on the collegiate model and to bring some stability to our industry. And so having a contract, I'm not concerned about that. I know the people in the rooms that I sit in with the athletic directors. I think our 3 commissioners have worked very hard together, looking at themselves eye to eye. I think, as Jim Phillips said, and I think our ADs in our conference looked across the table at the ADs in the ACC and the Big Ten, and we have a lot of confidence in what we can do collectively as a group moving forward.
As far as the University of Colorado, I know you're confident in what you guys are doing for your student athletes here. Your scheduling is pretty aggressive over the next several years. How do you view this as benefiting the University of Colorado?
Well, look, I think it's going to allow our student athletes to compete on a bigger stage, having some marquee games around the country. I think it's going to bring visibility to our department and our university, playing on the East Coast to the West Coast. I think it's going to provide more eyeballs on opportunities for Heisman trophies and other things, the national awards, and I think that's going to be really important, and it's going to bring some excitement to our fan base and our alumni around the country. And so I just think that there's so many positives on this alignment and what it will look like. I think you can, in all of our sports, I think you can create some multi-team events in different, whether it's men's or women's basketball, or if it's soccer or cross country. I mean, you can envision a meet that has just the 3 conferences and others. And again, we're not just scheduling with those 2 conferences. We're still going to have scheduling opportunities in all of our sports for all the conferences, just like we do today. But what this will do, it might allow us to have some early season for all of our sports, really marquee events that are going to be marketable, be going to be watched all across the country. And again, playing from coast to coast, being in all 4 time zones in this country will be really important for us, and it'll give some visibility. And I think from a student athlete perspective, it's going to provide some experiences that they may not have just in this conference and some of the non-conference games that we've been able to schedule. So I think there's real opportunity for all of the peers in these 3 leagues to work together and really make this a meaningful experience for all of our alumni and fan around the country.
Keeping it on the student athletes, do you anticipate any, I guess, drastic changes to how you'll, I guess, approach student athletes' mental and physical well-being?
No, I think what we'll find in that area is that we will be able to work together and collaborate on those issues as well, which I think is really important, for us to be able to do. And I guess I would say that I think the 41 institutions in this alliance are really like-minded, that are really focused on the same things, and the student-athlete perspective is going to be important. And we've got so many research universities in this alliance that we can rely on some of that research that they have out there that can bring us all together to make better improvements for our student-athletes moving forward in the health and wellness areas and all the areas that touch our student-athletes from that regard.
I think that the Big Ten commissioner said something about not being sure exactly what his thoughts are on how the college football playoff should expand or whether it should expand. And I know George Kliavkoff has said that he likes the idea of expansion, but figuring out how to do it is important. When in terms of this alliance, how important is it to figure out what kind of a unified stance is on the college football playoff going forward, and what role did that in particular play in building the alliance?
Well, I think if you look at it, and I have to put this disclaimer in, I'm speaking as the athletic director at the University of Colorado. I serve on the CFP selection committee, so these are my thoughts, not the CFP selection thoughts. But I do, think that expansion is good. Whether 12's the right number, I'm not totally sure on yet, and I don't have a final opinion on that as we look at all of the information. But I think there's always been a process that was going to take place, right? When they made the announcement that that 12 was being looked at, but there's still some opportunity for us to get more data that would maybe change where that direction is moving forward. So there's still a lot of time to do that. I think there's a meeting at the end of September that they'll come together and take everybody's input and really look at that and see if that's definitely the direction we want to go or if there's some modifications to that.
This question, but scheduling was a big part of it. I know you guys have scheduled for many years out, including some against Big Ten and ACC. Do you know if this is going to cause you guys to have to revisit some of those contracts and maybe redo some of that scheduling?
At this point, no. If you look at our schedule, I think through 2026, Dave can correct me on that, but we have Big Ten and ACC games during that time period, so that's beneficial to us. And yes, we are scheduled out, through 2032, something like that at this point, but certainly we'll look at what we're doing in the conference. Is 8 or 9 games the right number? We haven't come to any conclusion on that yet, but as we look through this and as we start to really tackle these scheduling opportunities moving forward, we'll look at all of those different factors. 2027. He corrected me.
As a follow-up to that, I know it's a discussion that will happen within the conference. Do you have a preference about going to 8 or 9 or keeping divisions or not?
Well, we want to look at it all. We want to see how it fits for us. We've been very comfortable with the 9-game schedule. Could we get comfortable with an 8-game schedule and adding another opponent in the future? We could get comfortable with that too. And so what we'll do collectively as an AD group and our coaches and our conference office is we'll work together on what we think is best for us and for our student athletes moving forward. So don't have that answer, totally yet, but we'll look at all those different options to make sure that when we do finalize what our scheduling will look like in the future, we'll look at all those factors.
I know that you have Nebraska on the schedule a few times going forward, but I think when people see the line in the release that says there's going to be an emphasis on historical matchups here in Boulder, that's one that really comes to mind. Have there been any sort of conversations about more games against Nebraska in particular?
Yeah, it's too early for us to have those discussions on who do we play more often than that. But we certainly like our tradition and rivalry that we have there. I think what this alliance will do is, one, we will protect those historical rivalries, but at the same time, we'll probably create some rivalries as we move forward. I think it's an incredible opportunity for us to really put some great marquee games out there every year, maybe to start the season, finish the season, mid-season. But again, we'll look at all of that as we start moving forward on this alliance.
Okay, I think that's it for questions in the room. We'll hand it over to Troy to see if there's any more on Zoom.
Hey, everybody, once again, please use your chat function. If you have a question, I'll call on you. We do have one to start off with by Ron Milhorn. Ron, go ahead and unmute and ask your question.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Rick. Certainly this move has been met with some skepticism, most notably Paul Feinbaum, who says that perhaps this alliance is done to spite the SEC. What's your response?
What's my response to that? My response to that is that's not accurate. I appreciate and respect his comments on it. But this is about what's best for the collegiate model. It's about what's best for our conference and what's best for the University of Colorado. And that's where our focus is on. And we think, again, as I said earlier in my comments, that we think that this alliance will help bring some stability to the collegiate model and to intercollegiate athletics. As I said, there's a lot on our plate. I think working collaboratively together with them and our peers at the SEC and the Big 12, I think that's important. But we felt like this was the right move at this point in time for us to address a lot of the issues that we have in our industry today.
Okay, do we have anybody else on Zoom that would like to ask a question? Okay, that's all I'm getting, Curtis.
All right, thanks. Appreciate everyone's time. Anything else from the room?
Yep,
One more from
Brian's.
Brian.
Rick, when you and I chatted at Media Day in Hollywood, we were talking about, you were mentioning to me it's an exciting time with all the changes going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, with now that these three conferences are kind of aligned in this, does that make it even more exciting that you've got some partners and that there is a lot more voices in the room to kind of tackle some of these big things?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of big things in our industry, right? We talked about the name, image, and likeness, the Alston, the new governance structure that the NCAA is contemplating. And I think as the landscape is ever changing, I think having more people in the room that you can have conversation with and collaborate with to help make intercollegiate athletics better, I think it's important. And look, there's been a lot of turmoil, I guess, or I think that it's Commissioner Warren said turbulence in our model. And I think bringing this group together really helps stabilize that and puts a strong voice out there about, the direction of where intercollegiate athletics is going to go. Thank you. Appreciate everybody.